Hello everybody, it's DJ here from Exotic Pest 23, and we're going to do a video on the complete housing and care sheet for the G.rosea tarantula. So, first off, I use, like I said before, the circle enclosures, which I'll show you here. So yeah, these are the circle critter keepers. I call them the circle critter keepers. I mean, just because they're in the shape of a circle. So, I mean, like you can see, they're not tall, not too tall. They're just big enough for the tea to move around in. And they have a nice secure locking lid on there, so you don't have to worry about them escaping. They do have this little door, but I don't use it, so it's always recommended that they do lock very well though. So, like I said, that's the housing that I use for them. I found this to be probably one of the better ones because you can use the square ones, but I don't think it's as, I mean, it's actually really no downfall to it. I just prefer the circle ones, I guess you can put it that way. So, we'll go ahead and open the enclosure and show you what we have inside. So I'm going to set the camera down here. I'll try to be careful when I open it not to settle the teas. I mean, sometimes it's inevitable, but alright. So, I mean, here we go. This is my largest tea that I have for the Grammostola rosea. And you can see her cleaning herself. Yeah. This is normal for them to do that. You know, every once in a while they like to take a little bath. She was drinking earlier out of her water dish, but I mean, you can see compared to her water dish how big she is compared to the Rosie, who's my smallest tea and who was my first tea. This is my most recent one that I have gotten. I got her from PetSmart, so yeah. So back to the enclosure, I use Eco-Earth substrate. That's my favorite and that's my personal choice for substrate. I in some other enclosures I use a mix between the Repti bark and I use the Eco-Earth, but I always use Eco-Earth as a main substrate. So that's the main substrate. These guys are a burrowing species, but I found that in the captivity, these guys do not burrow. It's just not in their nature to burrow in captivity. Some might, but I've always found that they do not. So I do not give them enough substrate to burrow because it's just a waste. And I just put just enough in there. As you can see, it's hard, maybe 3 centimeters of substrate, but it's also not too shallow to where they always touching the bottom of the plastic. So it's perfectly fine for them, and I found this works all the time. I don't provide them with a hide either because, once again, I found in this species that they don't use it. Like, not at all. They'll sit on top of it or just don't go anywhere near it. They don't go inside of it, nothing. So I just choose not to provide them with one. But just for a little decoration and for a little bit of texture, I'd always add 2 pieces of the cholla wood, I guess that's what it's called. And it comes in a 2-pack from PetSmart or Petco, I guess you can get it from either or. But it's for hermit crabs. And like I said, it comes in a 2-pack, and I just buy a pack of that and place it as I feel necessary. And just so they can make a web on it or whatever have you, so they can set little traps for when the critters do come in the cage so they can eat. Then I provide with a water bowl, shallow water bowl. Change the water every day, if not every other day. They get fed. My teas get fed every week at least, and if I feed them depending on the week. Every other week I'll alternate between crickets and mealworms. Actually I don't use mealworms. I use superworms. They're pretty much the same thing, just larger. And I will alternate between those, like I said, and I usually give them 1 superworm, and then a day or 2 later I'll give them another superworm. And if they're still hungry after that, I'll probably give them 1 more another day later. But they seem to do fine with it, and it's not too bad of an overfeeding for them. But when it comes to crickets, I'll drop maybe 4 in there and wait a couple days, test their temperament to see if they're hungry still. And if they are, I'll drop 2 more in there, so I'll probably get about 6 a week. And they seem to do fine with that. But the crickets are not ridiculously large either, so once again, overfeeding is not a problem. Um, Humidity, these guys don't need a lot of it. Just provide them with a water dish and overflow it every week or every other week. And when I say overflow, that just means pour enough water in it to where it spills over a little bit, and that's all the humidity they're gonna need. And they will thrive perfectly in room temperature. I mean, they don't need a heat lamp, they don't need a heat mat, they don't need none of that unless you live in like, you know, colder regions towards the north or whatever. I live in Pennsylvania where the winters can be pretty bad, but it's not too bad, so they seem to do fine. And that's pretty much it. I mean, they seem to do just fine with everything, you know, and handling them every once in a while is okay if you're experienced enough to handle them. But as far as their stress level goes, it's okay for them to get that kind of interaction, so they know that you're not a threat, and they know that you're the one that gives food and take care of them. So that's, in my opinion, I think it's everything that they pretty much need. And she's still sitting there cleaning herself. She's pretty much content doing that right now. And also, these guys are known as pet rocks, so you know that they'll sit there and not do anything for long periods of times. And that's a happy tarantula for you. They just sit and not do anything. They're not a very This species in particular is not a very active species. But every once in a while, if I do see that they are moving around or whatever, and looking like they want to go out for a little bit of exploring, I will take them out and handle them, and let them crawl around for a little bit. But it's never for too long. So, and I don't recommend that you get this species, especially as a beginner, and to show off to your friends or whatever, because chances are you will be bitten, and it's not going to end very well. If bitten, you won't require medical attention because their venom is not as potent as most other tarantulas, I should say, but it will hurt a lot. I can tell you that. It will draw blood, and it won't be pleasant at all. So, um, like I said, another thing is they can be very unpredictable, so always exercise caution with these guys. So, just another look at the top of the enclosure, just how the setup is. Once again, the T. And she's just cleaning herself. She has a nice set of fangs. I don't know if you can see it. Oh. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope that helps in some way. So if there's any other questions or comments, just feel free to ask. Thank you and have a good one.